All right, so this is our subject for today. This week's video is going to be painting a Space Wolf head on an intercessor. Because of, the comment about I want to learn how to paint beards. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I have the paints here that we're going to be using. We are going to be using Kislev Flesh for the fleshy bits over the base coat of Bugman's Glow to really bring out the rosy cheeks and, make the face look more alive. And we're also going to be using a mix of Mournfang Brown and Baneblade Brown for the hair, Agrax Earthshade, and of course, Liquid Talent Null Oil. Let's jump right in. All right, so that was the base coat of Bugman's Glow. We got a nice even coat over it, thinned down just a little bit to make sure we don't lose any of that model detail. Something that I think is very important, a lot of people, like when it comes to creating facial effects, they're afraid to get messy. That they'll get, the flesh paints on. I always like to do my faces first because that's where I really put most of my emphasis and detail work. And while I'm doing my base coats, I tend to get them on the armor, and I like to be able to paint over on the armor and take my time on the armor to cover it up first. So now that we're done with the base coat for the face, we are going to be going in and layering the face part. And we're going to be doing this first because we want the face to... It's okay if you put the Kislev Flesh onto the hair if you get it on the hair. Because we're going to be covering it later when we go in and put the hair. In fact, it's more than okay. It's pretty desirable because you want it to feel like there's a layer of actual skin underneath the beard. You want him to feel flushed out. Okay, and there we are with the Kislev Flesh layer. I noticed something as I was doing this particular layer of paints, and that's that that little mouth bit in the middle of the beard was surprisingly harder to get at and for me to be happy with. I mean, I do tend to paint with a thicker brush, and that's just out of habit. I've never found trouble doing detail work before, even with the thick brushes, because, I mean, if you have the proper brush techniques, you can just sharpen the point by just dragging the bristles across a surface and twisting the brush, and that develops a nice fine point that you can use for detail work. I mean, admittedly, I'm not the best painter in the world. I'm sure there's plenty of other techniques out there, and if you're more comfortable with a small brush, have at it. It's just what I'm used to, and it really limited me in this particular painting regard. But we're going to go ahead and move on now. I'm going to do the base layer for the beard itself. All right, so now we have the Mournfang Brown layer done on the beard. And since we have our base coat, you know how this Citadel system functions. Next, we need to do a layer. And for that, I've chosen a less red-brown. So our Space Wolf here is a little bit less Eric the Red and a little bit more Dragonborn. All right. Oh, dropped the camera. I apologize. Yeah, so that's the Baneblade Brown layer done on the beard. And as you can see, I kind of thinned this paint out a little more because my method of layering works incredibly well for facial hair, for regular hair. Just because when you look at someone's hair, it's got layers to it. They get sun bleached at different rates depending on where it is. And it really gives texture and it makes it feel like something's there, like there's something three-dimensional. And that works so well for facial hair, for beards, for mustaches, what have you. So our next step that we're going to do is we're going to apply a nice coat of Null Oil. Just to accent the differences and add depth to all the crevices in the facial hair itself, because there's loads of hairlines there that, if you put an ink wash through, will really come out. So we're going to take care of that. Okay, so that's our Null Oil coat. Now, the next step we have to take care of, obviously, is since we're doing a shader layer now, we are going to go ahead and put a Rakarth flesh shade over the face, just to draw out the naturally existing lines that are on this guy's face. So, you know, he gets his laugh lines, he gets his cracks, everything just looks human. Okay, that's our Rakarth flesh shade done. Something you might want to note when you are painting with shaders and using multiple different kinds of shaders or doing recess shading. Wait for each layer to dry before you apply them. You're not seeing me do this because I'm pausing the video between each step. However, I am waiting an ample amount of time for the shader coat to dry. If you don't, it'll run together and it'll look kind of weird. I forgot, I should probably mention that. So you all don't just come after me when you mess up your models. I suppose it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a little bit of red in the beard if you didn't mind that kind of thing, but that's not the look I was going for with this guy. I was thinking hint of gray beard. So, as you may notice, our Space Wolf here has a cybernetic eye, which is kind of cool. But I forgot to mention that on my paints list, so I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick right here. Whenever I'm doing any kind of metallics, I like to base it in lead belcher, shade with null oil, and then highlight with either a dry brush of the same lead belcher back over to pick out the details, or if I really want it to pop, I'll go ahead and go in with a Necron compound. But I don't think that's necessary for an augmentic dye. And you know, Space Wolves, Space Vikings, they're going on through space, not big on hygiene. So we're probably not going to do that for this one. We'll just stick with the lead belcher. All right, so it looks like this guy's just about done. There's one more thing we have to do, and that's going to be highlights. So I'm going to go back in with Kislev Flesh, and I'm going to pick out some raised areas on his face to add just a little bit more weathering and a little bit more depth. My usual method at this point, this is where I start trying to create flaws or pull things out or create scars, things to make the model look different. This is one of the reasons why I don't really like beards. I love painting bare faces, but beards take up a lot of that canvas. They take up a huge amount of space. And a beard can definitely say something, but most beards that you're going to be painting on your guys are going to be modeled in place. And, I mean, you can still find stuff to do, but you have to try a lot harder. So that's why I really love the basic Marine head where the guy's just bald and either screaming or blank-faced, because that gives me the most room to work with and be different and, creative. However you like to do it is cool. I'm going to see if I can think of something here. All right, and with that, I believe our Space Wolf here is ready to hit the battlefield and swing his chainsword in the name of Russ and the All-Father. I did decide to do something different, but instead I decided to work on the cybernetic eye. I used a little bit of Warpstone Glow to layer paint to just go ahead and make that lens pop out a little bit. There was a couple other choices I could have done, but that seemed like the most prudent. If you guys have any other questions, I love doing videos like this where I'm answering your guys' questions. Please leave them down in the comments. Once again, thanks for watching. See you next time.